Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I'm coming to you with this landscaped card. It's quite a long card. It's like 9 inches long by 4 inches wide. So I've had a lot of requests just wanting to know how I created this landscape scenery. So I'm not going to make the whole card because just sponging this whole piece here took me about half an hour. So I obviously don't want you to be watching me sponge, but I will show you quickly how I sponge, but I'll just show you how to create this panel, okay, to sponge. So to start with, we need a piece. Well, to start with, actually, I've drawn a line on my grid paper, like all the way along there, and that's going to be my guide where I'm going to put my piece that I'm sponging on. Then the piece that you need, which is Whisper White, and it's the heavy Whisper White, or sometimes I do use the shimmery white. Now that is 9 inches long by 2.5 inches wide. Okay, so then as well as that, you'll need 2 scraps of cardstock that are about 11 inches long by 1 inch wide. So you'll need 2 scraps of those. They don't have to actually be, they're just you'll see as we go, they're just to make the mask for sponging. That's all they are. So that any colour, they just need, but they need to, I find I like them to be about 11 inches long, and then they go over the ends of the white piece, and it makes it a lot easier to sponge. Okay, so then on this piece of Whisper White that is 9 inches long by 2.5 inches wide, we're going to make a mark at the top. That is from the top to there is a 1/2 inch mark, and a 1/2 inch mark from the bottom, a 1/2 inch mark there as well, and then the same on this side. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Then you're just going to get your ruler and line up those 2 marks and just do a faint line along the top and the same along the bottom. Okay. Then we're going to bring in these pieces. I would line it up with my line that I've drawn along here. So I line that up there like that. And then I just grab my snail and I just put a bit of snail down, because that's going to hold the mask in place. Like that. So with that, so we need to have this lined up on that bottom line that we've drawn. So on that mark there to that mark there, and then just down, and then hopefully the snail's going to hold it in place. And then the same with the top piece, just down on that line, that notches on that side, and then to that notch on that side. And that is how I make my mask. Now it's only stuck down on the ends, so you have to be very careful when you're sponging that this part doesn't move. So as I sponge, I just sponge like about 1 inch at a time, and I just hold it down like that. Now those that know me, I like to put on my disposable gloves when I'm sponging. So I'll just quickly put them on. I'm not going to sponge the whole area, but just, I've done plenty of tutorials on how I do sponge. Recently I've been using the new Stampin' Up sponge brayer, but because this is such a long piece that I'm sponging, you just can't. So I'm just going to start off with some Soft Sky, and when you get your sponges from Stampin' Up, you get a big circle, and then I cut them in quarters, and then you get a peak like that, and then I just squeeze that together and it gives like a rolled effect. Okay, so now I'm just, and the best thing is that when you're sponging, that your stamp pads aren't too juicy. You can always stamp off before, which I always do before I start sponging. So I do the sky first, which is in Soft Sky. So just very lightly. And you can just see how lightly I'm doing that, and that's why it took me half an hour to do this whole panel. And sometimes it may seem that you're not getting much ink going on there, but once you move your mask, you'll realize you are. It just depends how dark you want it, but you just want to go very slowly so that it does blend in. So you want to bring, in this instance, I would want to bring the blue down to at least halfway. When there's not much left on, you can just do that. So I'm not going to spend too much time in sponging it, because I just keep adding and I go back. Even when I've finished doing the whole panel, I might even go back and do a little bit more. So you would be just doing this along the whole panel. And I'm not adding very much pressure to that at all. So then I would bring in the pink pirouette, and I work from the bottom with the pink pirouette, and it just gives you a nice tinge to your sky. And just blend it up into your sky, don't worry, because we're going to be stamping on top of this. So you can see that that ink pad was quite juicy. So I'm just going back in with a bit of Soft Sky. The combination I use is Soft Sky, pink pirouette, and pear pizzazz is what I use. So then I'm just going to grab my pear pizzazz and just softly start sponging the bottom. And you want to leave a little bit of pink showing through. And so you would continue that all the way along. Okay, so I've already sponged the other side of this piece, so you can see what it looks like when you're finished. So I'll just close my ink pads. So I can take my gloves off now, we don't need them. So I just want to take that off. and take that off. So it most probably doesn't look much because we haven't done the full, but I'll turn it over and show you. But that is the motion that I've done for the whole landscaped image, but as the background. But you just need to really take your time. So that is the finished one that I did before coming on camera, and that took me about half an hour to do. That's just the background before we stamp on. So I'm just going to put that, and this is how we stamp. You might see that I've put accidentally a little bit of ink on there, and all I'm going to do afterwards is just trim the white piece down a little bit. So we're just going to line that up on the line, and we want to put this back on. So just pretending that we've just finished sponging all that. So that would be your finished sponged area. Okay, and then we're going to be using the stamp set Lovely as a Tree, and we're using this row of stamps here. So I've got that on my block. So the first stamp this stamp pad we're going to use is Always Artichoke. And for this I just like to do it this way because it's such a long stamp and it's got a lot of definition in the trees, and you want to make sure that you do ink up all those. So what I do when I first stamp this one on this card, I'm just going to stamp a little bit off the end. And just give it a really good pressure. Try not to rock it. Like that. Then we'll just ink it up again. Now, I like to leave like a little 2-finger space, and then well, not actually two, just a little space there. And you'll see that like if you use those colours, Soft Sky, Pink Pirouette and Pear Pizzazz, when you can still see just a little tinge of pink coming through the sky, and it really is quite effective. Like that. Now I just want to, I might just stamp a little bit on that end there. Just on the end, leaving a space. So that's the Always Artichoke, and then I'm going to use the Pear Pizzazz again. I'm not even going to my stamping scrub, and then I'm just using my Pear Pizzazz. Now when I've done that, I'm going to stamp off And then where there's that little gap there, I'm going to aim one of my trees and just stamp a bit lower than I have. And hopefully this is what gives you the illusion that it's a forest of trees. So we'll stamp that up again. And then we're just going to stamp off and just get it in one of the gaps. Like that. Then we just need one more. Just stamp it off, and just on the end there's a big gap. We're just going to pop a tree in there like that. Then lastly, we're just going to use a little bit of wild wasabi. So we'll close that one up. Now for this one, we're just going to remove our masks. So you can see how effective that is. Then get the wild wasabi. Just ink that up. It's very juicy, that stamp pad. So I'm just gonna, and we're just going to go up and don't worry that you've gone a bit above into the white because, and a bit down the bottom here, because that's quite alright. If you didn't want that effect, you'd leave the masking on, but this time I wanted to have that effect of going a little bit up there. So that's the stamping done. So you can see how effective that is over the sponged image. Just come in a bit so you can see there how the pink has come through a little bit, and it's quite effective. So we'll just go back out. Right, now what we need to do then, because I've got sticky on there, I might just take that one off for you. So what we need then is 2 strips of soft sky. Okay, let's get back into camera shot for you. So we need 2 pieces of soft sky. Let's go out, that's better. Okay, so we need 2 pieces of soft sky, and they measure they measure 9 inches by 1 inch of the soft sky. So what I'm going to do there, let's have a look at that. So I'm going to turn that over, and just remember that's just where I showed you the sponging. And we want to put, when you've finished your sponging, just take your rubber or razor, pencil razor, and just erase those lines. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it because that's going to be glued down, but I did do that on the other side already. So okay, so on this side we're just going to put some snail as close to the edge as you can get it. On both top and bottom. I most probably should have done one at a time, but anyway, let's hope we just don't put it down on the grid paper. There's a little bit there. I'm just trying to get it right on the edge, on the ends there. Okay, so with our first piece, how I do it is I just line it up, my soft sky, I line it up on a line on my grid paper, like that. And then I just pop it down one side. So I want it to be pretty straight. And just give that, okay. And then the same with the bottom piece. So I just pop that back up on my line again. And then pop it down on one side, and then to the other side. So that gives you your panel. That gives you a panel for your card, and that's how I do it. So it's pretty simple. And then I just adhered it to my card. I'll give you the measurements of this card too. And because I cut a piece off of this when I adhered it to the card, there was a little bit, you'll find you'll have a little bit that you'll need to cut off. And I've just adhered that to the inside of the card just to follow through with the scenery. Okay, now the size of this card is 9 inches by 8 inches, and then on the 8-inch side you're going to score that at 4 inches. Okay, so then I've just used some some burlap ribbon, which I highly recommend that you put your tear and tape under your burlap ribbon because it's a very coarse trim to be using. And then I've added some classy designer buttons. I just threaded some baker's twine through that before. Then I put some tear and tape on the back of the buttons, and then they adhere to that burlap ribbon very nicely. Then I've just added my sentiment, and then those hearts are actually from some new embellishments that are coming available in Australia from the 4th of January 2017. And they're sending love. Now I'll just give you a tip with these. They do come in a plain wood, sort of colour, But what I do is I just use my tweezers. In this case with the hearts, I use my tweezers and I just dip them into my stamp pad, and then the colour I wanted, which was soft sky, and then once they dried, I just added a little bit of Winker Stella and then adhered them to my card with my fine tip glue pen. So that's just a tip for you. So you could colour them whatever colour you want to. Like, that's the good thing about them being that plain wood colour. So I hope that explains how I do create this landscape card, because it is quite a large card. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and until next time, happy crafting.